Hello, everyone. This is Lauren Steiner with the Robust Opposition, and I'm here with Elena Popp from the Eviction Defense Network. And she and her group are in downtown Los Angeles, where they are blocking all 4 entrances to the Los Angeles Superior Court. Elena, tell us what's going on here.
Since April 6th, evictions have been stopped in the state of California by a rule from a little-known body called the Judicial Council. It's called Rule 1, and it effectively stopped evictions. That rule goes away on September 1st, so that means that in Los Angeles County alone, 491,000 families are at risk of eviction. We are asking the governor to replicate Rule 1, create another rule just like it, and we're asking the legislature to pass AB 1436. Eventually, what we need is to cancel rent. What's happening here is the equivalent of the following. You come upon a patient, someone injured, laying on the ground. The Judicial Council looked at us bleeding out and said, we're going to put a tourniquet on that. But they didn't clean the wound, meaning they left the infection, that rent that was accumulating, untouched. The governor looked at the problem and said, I think I'm going to let local government take care of it, and gave local government the power. Local government came upon this patient and said, I think I'm going to put a Band-Aid on that problem. The legislature has done nothing. The Judicial Council got sick of waiting and is ripping that tourniquet off on September 2nd. A new Rule 1 and AB 1436 are the equivalent of giving the patient antibiotics and keeping the tourniquet on. But we need a real solution, and that is cancel rent. What do you think of that metaphor?
Well, I think that's great, but you're saying, because we just saw Don Ford speak, and you're going to get an interview with him, he was actually evicted during this period of time. So you're saying that even though they say there's a moratorium, they're still evicting people.
There is no moratorium. That rumor that is false about a moratorium started with the governor, and I'm planning to send him a dictionary. The media picked up on that. The governor never passed a moratorium. He told local governments to do their own laws. There is no moratorium. The closest thing to a moratorium is Rule 1. But Rule 1 didn't go into effect until April 6th. Don Ford's case started before COVID. There was already a judgment against him before Rule 1 went into effect. The sheriff was not enforcing during the pandemic. They weren't executing the writs. They were not kicking people out. They said they would not kick people out. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, on August 10th, without any warning, they started kicking people out. That's why Don Ford got evicted. He just spoke here.
Now, so Eric Garcetti's been going around saying since the beginning how he put a moratorium on evictions in the city of Los Angeles, and that he just said the other day he was extending that to September 1st. So that's fiction also?
Every single one of our elected officials needs to go back to remedial English and learn the definition of the word moratorium. A moratorium is a prohibition on an activity. An eviction moratorium would be a prohibition against filing evictions. Evictions can be filed. Even under Rule 1, they can be filed. Therefore, there is no moratorium. What Rule 1 does is once it's filed, it can't move forward because the court won't issue a summons. So the case can't be moved forward. But it only applies to situations after April 6th. We have 1,000 people, 1,000 families in Don Ford's situation. And the sheriff, rather than protecting them, is thrusting them onto the streets where they're at higher risk of infection and where they can then are at higher risk of infecting others. And we're also seeing way too many families get evicted and then double and triple up. So where there were 4 or 5 people living, now it's 15 people living. You just multiplied your chances of infection by 3. And once one person gets sick, the whole family gets sick. We are not going to flatten the curve with this policy. We are at risk. So 491,000 families currently at risk of eviction. The eviction process will start on September 2nd. And on top of that, the estimate is that we will end up with 120,000 of those being homeless. We can't afford an increase of 120,000 people to our homeless rate.
Now, I just read that the recreation centers, well, first of all, you can talk about that. They were supposed to be putting people in recreation centers, but then they decided they wanted those recreation centers to go back to their normal use. I don't know how they can do that if there's still a lockdown order. And they also were going to do Project Room Key. He was going to put, I don't know, what, 5,000 people in? He only put in 1,200. That seems to have stalled. Talk about that.
Well, so the recreation center idea is ridiculous because you cannot really socially distance people in that kind of setting. We know so little about this virus, but I am convinced that the whole use of air conditioning and people in enclosed spaces and lots of people in enclosed spaces is just a recipe for a disaster. The Project Room Key is a decent idea. Whoops, Lawrence, I lost you.
I see you.
Okay, I got you back. Project Room Key, a decent idea, but we need to have sufficient numbers to make it work. We should also be putting all the student housing to good use for housing people. But the number one solution is don't displace any more people. We have 60,000 homeless in Los Angeles. Let's get them housed using Project Room Key and by using vacant student housing. And let's leave everybody else in place. People cannot shelter in place if they have no place in which to shelter.
Okay, now you've been there for at least an hour. You said you were blocking all 4 entrances. Have they called the cops on you yet?
Not yet.
How many people have you prevented from going in?
Yeah. Okay, I will be right down. Hassan, how many people do you think we have here? Yeah. So, like right around this entrance, there's probably around 100 people. There's probably an equal number at each of the other entrances. We have, I think, been effective of completely shutting down at least 3 of them. I think we're kind of interviewing people and letting them pass if they're not here for an eviction from one of the entrances.
All right, why don't you show us some of the action and try to get some interviews, okay?
Okay, let me start here. I'm gonna take this off of me. So right here we have the sheriff's department responding to the fact that we have this driveway blocked off. And if I walk over here, this was the main press conference area. Most people were here initially, but it all dispersed. We had people at all 4 entrances since 6 in the morning, 6:30. So we got here before. This is Nancy.
Just covering other entrances.
This is Nancy. Say hello. Lawrence Steiner.
Yeah?
Lawrence Steiner. We're live.
Oh,
We're live. Say hi.
hi. Stay strong, everybody.
This used to be the main entrance of the Superior Court. And so you know we have it completely blocked off. Shut I'm going to go around to the side entrance. So we're live on Zoom with Lauren Steiner.
Hey guys.
Say hello, Rich. Why are you here?
Hey Rich.
Why are you here, Rich?
I'm here to shut it down. Cancel the rents.
So here we have this group blocking this driveway, and they've been successfully doing it.
Vamos a engrosar 1 millón de personas en las calles.
Elena, do you have anyone who spoke at the press conference who wants to share their story?
So people have been dispersed, and I'm told they're sharing stories at this side entrance. So I'm going to take you to where they're sharing stories. What I can tell you is that we are seeing a huge number of evictions. There's 1,000 evictions by the sheriff that are programmed right now. My office has dealt with and stopped 11 so far, or delayed, I should say, 11 so far. Some by asking for a reasonable accommodation, some by going to court and getting a stay of execution. But it has been really tough. And we keep getting calls from people who are calling us just as the sheriff is kicking them out. They're calling our emergency hotline number, but they're literally being kicked out as they're talking to me. And so as a result of that, there's nothing that we can do, because once they are kicked out, there's nothing that we can do. And so it really is. I'm going to actually take this ramp before I kill myself on these stairs. And so it's been an incredibly heartbreaking 2 weeks since August 10th, when Alex Villanueva made this heartless, irresponsible, immoral decision that is absolutely unsound health policy, and started enforcing these lockouts without giving people any notice.
Now, let me ask you something. The LA Board of Supervisors are very upset with him because he's been defying their orders. And before I left town, I found out that they had cut his budget, or they were freezing his budget. Are you guys trying to put any pressure on the Board of Supervisors, or are they powerless at this point?
I don't know about powerless. They control his money, but he is a separately elected official. What I think needs to happen is a recall effort, and there's a meeting to start that discussion sometime next week. And I think that there is enough support for that, because people understand that this is a health emergency, and that during a health emergency, you cannot make more people homeless. It is that simple. So the people understand that. Why don't our electeds understand that?
All right, you want to interview people?
Yeah, let me see. So I am now approaching. This is the side entrance where I am told we are now telling stories.
Okay, I lost you. Okay, here we go.
I'm told that people are telling their stories at this entrance. The press conference was at the first entrance. I think the plan is to keep holding that entrance and all the others. But here we have people telling stories.
Okay, if you're just joining us, folks, we are downtown Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Superior Court, where Elena Popp and about 100 other people are blocking 4 entrances to stop evictions.
But I need some time to pay my rent.
Here we go.
That's it. We are only asking to approve AB 1436, and that's all. We hope you all understand. And take it into consideration. If this doesn't happen, Millions of
angelinos
people who live in Los Angeles
estarão na rua
will be on the streets
no próximo mês.
and then approximately to the next month.
A
I
situação
have
não
to get
era
on a
boa
conference call.
antes da
Can
pandemia.
you
The
continue
situation
doing
was
this
not
with
good
Lauren?
before the pandemic. Imagine with this pandemic.
Imagine agora
Imagine now
o que será a partir de 1º de setembro.
what after September 1st the streets of homeless will look like with people being evicted out of their
Hey,
houses.
Don. Lauren Steiner is on the line. She wanted me to interview you.
Oh,
Going
Lauren.
to
Hi,
keep
Lauren.
fighting
Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Dawn, how you doing?
to approve
go,
this AB 1436.
Do you want to tell? Okay,
Sorry, I just wanted to get away from the sound, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm good, Dawn. All right, so I heard what happened to you. I'm really sorry.
I appreciate that.
Why don't you tell the viewers your story?
Okay, so you might have to tilt it up. So the short version is I've been dealing with the slumlord landlord for a few years. She would basically shut down communication whenever there was a disagreement. So the only way to resolve it was to handle going to court. In January, we went to court with her, and we basically cleaned her clock because Dennis Block, her lawyer, didn't even show up. And we got 45 days to move. This made our eviction date April 7th. The emergency moratorium started on March 4th and then into March 15th. By then, Los Angeles was done. So our eviction rent was only written 2 weeks before the moratoriums went into place, and the entire rental market dried up. We were told by the sheriffs to shelter in place, to stay where we were and not worry about. Sure, one
Yeah,
second.
let me finish this taping.
So we were in a constant dispute with her. Basically, the sheriff came on July 31st, just out of nowhere, and said they're reissuing the eviction because a judge had ruled that because some businesses were reopening, that they could arguably reopen evictions, which of course is a complete misinterpretation of the law. And the judge was making a call outside of his jurisdiction, because the second he made the decision to make a call that affected these 900 court cases, he had to stop and contact those 900 people before he made a judgment. So everything done after that is made illegally. So when they showed up at my house, the very talkative sheriff told me all these things that I needed to know. They then came. They didn't show up again. I filed an eviction writ, couldn't get due process in front of a judge. And then they showed up at my house on Monday with no notice of the action at 8:30 in the morning. They gave me 5 minutes to move out of the house. They locked my cats, my fish, and all my property in my house. My wife was forced to deal with tons of stuff. They harassed, they belittled me, and I live streamed the entire thing. There's 15,000 views right now. So not only am I making these claims, but I have them on video.
So one of the things,
You're
Lauren,
gone.
one of the things that's kind of interesting is that Don's still using the term moratorium. He has experienced the very fact that there are no moratoria, there never have been.
Yeah.
And yet, because our elected officials are using that term, and because the media uses that term, people think that they have protections that they in fact don't have. And here's the evidence. Here is someone who was actually locked out because I haven't looked at the legalities of the judge changing this, but certainly Rule 1 didn't protect him because Rule 1 only affects cases that were filed after April 6th. So, and the governor certainly did not do a moratorium, and the city council certainly did not do a moratorium, but there was a lack of due process for these 1,000 families who were told to shelter in place, and then without notice. The first one we saw was the 10th, I think, but maybe it started as early as July 31st that they started locking people out.
Oh, I know it's July 31st. I wrote a Medium article about my experience. You can search Medium, Don Ford, and it breaks down the entire thing. A lot of this revolves around the very known abysmal eviction attorney who activists have been going after for years for his just trash behavior.
I think they want Don to tell his story to the people that are waiting.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I'm not sure this is a receptive crowd.
All right, thanks, Don. Good luck.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for your kind words.
So Lauren, I think this is the entrance where we're talking to people to see if they're here to file an eviction, and if they are, they're not letting them in. And otherwise, I think folks are being allowed to go in. But everyone's getting an education on the need to cancel rent. This is Sergio from the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, and one of the organizers.
Yeah, I know Sergio.
Okay.
Say hi to Lauren Steiner. Mommy.
Can we interview him?
If you want to talk more about this, just unblock me.
Okay, that was interesting. So Lauren, I need a break. I've been here since 6:30. Can we do this again a little bit later on, or do you want me to go around to the other entrance?
Well, I mean, if you could just interview one more person, and then we'll wrap
Okay.
up.
Okay. Oops. Let's face up, it's fine.
While I've got you, have you thought about doing a class action suit against the sheriff?
There is discussion of doing a lawsuit against the sheriff, and a class action suit has been filed against Dennis Block. So yeah, there's all kinds of lawsuits happening around this stuff. So hold on.
I find it interesting that they haven't arrested you yet.
Yeah, well, that is actually smart response on their part. When they arrest us, they give us more play, more power, more everything. So I always wonder why they resort to arresting us when that just makes the action more exciting. We're planning to be out here until 4:30.
Tell the location where you are in case people in Los Angeles want to join you.
So we are at 110 North Grand or 111 North Hill. There are 4 entrances to the court, and those are the 2 that are on the street. The easiest way to get here is to take the metro and get off at the First and Hill Civic Center entrance.
Okay, I'm writing this down in the comments.
I'm sorry?
I'm writing the address in the comments.
That's great. Either 110 North Grand or 111 North Hill, and that's the courthouse downtown.
And you'll be there till 4:30.
That is the plan, unless they kick us out. So here's the other entrance. There's a lot of activity happening, so I'm not sure I can get someone to peel someone off, but let's see. Part of the way that we took control of the entrances was by setting up tents.
Yeah, you should occupy that courthouse.
So the plan is no business as usual starting the 2nd. This was the warning shot to the governor. And the plan is no business as usual starting the 2nd.
So you're calling for a mass call to get as many people to this courthouse to shut it down as possible. That's a great action.
Yeah, and people should come down and join us, right? So here we have, this one's shut down.
Do you have a child?
Stop that goddamn tail. Stop fighting.
Lauren, I'm going to hand this to Rich so I can deal with some stuff here.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down.
okay? But people are going hungry. It's our central today. There are 2 illegal lockouts a week. People go home and then they can't put the key to the work. They put their things cold on the street. And then when they were there, getting them back into their home. Illegal lockouts. Legal. Then the LAPD shows up to enforce those illegal lockouts. Okay? To enforce those illegal lockouts. If anything, we're upholding the law, Senate. This is an existential threat to tenants across California. And I'm sorry, but you should be blaming your politicians. You should be blaming the mayor. Where the fuck is their say? Where the fuck is the city council? Where the fuck? They've been taking some votes way back when to protect us, and they haven't. And they haven't. They haven't. There were moments when they could have voted on the city council to protect tenants, and they didn't take it. The mayor, the governor, was all the way to the top. City council member, talk to them around the world. They don't understand the situation we're in.
We need somebody up here. We need relief. One relief. No.
In case you're just joining us, we are at the Los Angeles Superior Court in downtown Los Angeles, where the Eviction Defense Network, ACE, and other organizations have about 100 people blocking all 4 entrances. No business as usual until they stop evictions. They've said there's a moratorium on evictions in the state and in the city, and that is not actually true. They've evicted thousands of people, and we just interviewed Don Ford, who was one of them. And now people are sharing their stories. We'll go back to the action.
Hey, Jacob, you're Lauren Steiner. Say hi to Lauren Steiner, you too.
Hey, Lauren.
The National Lawyers Guild is here in force as always.
Hey, who wants to share their story?
No cops. All your evictions gotta stop. No landlords, no cops. All your evictions gotta stop. No landlords, no cops.
Call out
All your evictions gotta stop. No landlords, no cops.
them to go home.
All evictions gotta stop. No landlords, no cops.
Okay, I'm gonna have you interview a landlord attorney. I want to introduce you. Hey, Wayne, how you doing? Wayne Ab. Wayne Ab. Hey, Wayne. Hi, Elena Popp.
Are you I recognize you even with that dopey mask on. Is this part of your thing?
This is Wayne Ab, Lauren, and he's a landlord attorney.
Are you supporting this?
Yes, we're
You
stopping
think it's right
evictions.
that people shouldn't be able to get in the building who have other business?
No, we're letting people in with other business. Get in
I have
line.
other business.
Well, get in line. There's a line. Get in line. That's
So Elena, go back to you for a second. So this guy was here to represent a landlord, and you chased him away?
he's a landlord attorney. He works for a firm called Nussbaum. It's a Nussbaum firm, and they evict a lot of people every year. And so we just stopped him from going in. So it's definitely a no business as usual for evictions. At the side entrance, we're talking to people, and depending on why they're here, they're being let in. No business as usual for evictions. And this is just a warning. Starting September 2nd, We will be out here each day and every day stopping evictions from happening.
All right, that's great. Keep talking to folks.
You know what? I think it's just a little too crazy. I think we need to kind of stop. Can we do this again a little bit later?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to build up an audience once you got one. Just give me a couple more people who can share their
Okay.
stories.
All right. She's building an audience, so she doesn't want to.
I'm tagging a lot of people to watch and share.
Yeah.
How about this one? Landlord, you can hide, we can see your green side. All right, we want it. Landlord, you can hide, we can see your green side. Landlord, you can hide, we can see your green side. All right, yo,
It's pretty amazing, I would say.
In case you're just joining us, I'm here with Elena Popp from the Eviction Defense Network. She is at the courthouse downtown LA, where about 100 people have blocked off all 4 entrances, and they are stopping evictions. We just saw a landlord not be able to get in there and proceed with his cases, a landlord's attorney.
We need the governor to give us Rule 1. That is our demand. The governor must give us Rule 1, and the legislature must pass AB 1436. We will not allow evictions to happen in the middle of this pandemic. When your government will not take care of its citizenry, the citizenry needs to rise up and take care of itself.
So what we need one Facebook post that has the governor's number and one of those links to find your representative and get their number, and then everybody can make 2 calls, one to the governor and one to their representative. AB, what was the number?
So it's 3 calls, one to the governor, one to your assembly member, one to your senator.
One to your state senator. Okay, so we need a Facebook post, and we'll put it in the link here, and we'll make sure the calls get made.
Great. So, Lauren, I'm going to say goodbye because I'm about to pass out.
Oh,
And I also have to get on a call.
all right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Elena.
I'll go on live later.
All righty. Okay, everybody. So that was Elena Popp from the Eviction Defense Network. She's down at the Los Angeles Superior Court. We heard from Don Ford earlier, who was evicted even during this time when there's supposedly an eviction moratorium. And Elena explained that it really hasn't been. So everybody's being gaslighted. Please, if you just tuned in late, watch the video from the beginning and share this stream because I'm in Facebook jail. And we need to keep fighting to stop evictions, and we need to recall Alex Villanueva, who is not supposed to be enforcing these evictions and putting people out on the street during a pandemic, which is extremely dangerous. And I don't know about the fire conditions in LA, because I'm out of state, but I read that in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, it's extremely unhealthy to be outside. And if you have any kind of respiratory illnesses, being outside exacerbates it under normal terms, but during COVID, it makes you much more likely to get COVID. And if you have these respiratory issues, it makes you much more likely to die of COVID. So please share this stream. And what else can I say? We just got to keep fighting. Forget the distraction that is the Democratic convention. You know, activists, we know that we have to work on the issues. The Democrats aren't going to give it to us. We need Medicare for all. We need housing for everyone. We need a living wage. We need to decriminalize marijuana. We need to end qualified immunity for cops. There's so many things we need to do, a ban on fracking. And there's a lot of things we can pursue in the California legislature. This bill that she just mentioned is still alive. We need to lobby our representatives to pass that bill. We've already seen a very good bill that would have had 2,500 foot setbacks for all oil drilling. That died because of 3 senators, Ben Waso, Bobby Hertzberg, and Caballero, I forget the first name. But we really need to do this because they are operating with very little transparency during this pandemic. And people have been focusing on this national election, which is a distraction from the venues where we can actually make changes, which is in our local governments and our state governments. So Elena's going to put information on this bill. Governor needs to pass Rule 1, and the legislature needs to pass this bill. The number I already forgot, but she's going to put the information in the comments, and we need everybody to make the calls. So thank you, stay safe, wear your mask, and keep fighting.